Today we have with us Irina Tsukerman, a human rights lawyer who will shed light upon the blatant and shocking human rights abuses faced by immigrant workers in the country of Qatar. From Indians to Nepalese and Bangladeshis, Qatar traps immigrant workers who continue to face abuse. And as per the reports online, over 23,000 workers who were brought in for the FIFA have faced abuse and ridicule. While over 6,000 workers from India, Nepal and Bangladesh and other nations have died in Qatar. With the FIFA World Cup coming up, it's high time that Qatar's abuses are exposed to the world. And that's exactly what we are doing here. We're going to have a conversation with Irina. Irina, I appreciate you joining us and speaking with us. The first question I'd like to ask you is that there are shocking reports of over 20,000 immigrant workers suffering human rights and labor rights abuses in Qatar. What more can you tell us about these allegations?
A lot of these people are poor laborers from South Asia. Many of them work specifically on the World Cup stadium that's being built for December in Qatar, but others are there semi-permanently performing various other tasks. Qatar's population consists majority of foreign laborers, such as these workers. Unfortunately, they're facing literally an apartheid system, despite being the majority of the country performing all essential tasks from construction to assistance around homes. They're frequently denied visas and exit visas to return home and to visit their families. They can be beaten, abused, thrown in jail for no reason. In terms of construction, many of them are facing excessive heat. Many have died from heart attacks and preventable medical situations without getting basic medical care or attention, and some have been literally murdered. Unfortunately, this system creates a great deal of injustice. Most of the laborers are forced to live in labor camps, in tents, and live on subsistence food. They're not allowed to even have the same brands of food as Qatari population, and they are basically they're not allowed to use even the same airports or the same and in some cases even the same entry lines as the Qatari citizens. Unfortunately, that this system persists even among some U.S. and other Western companies, such as Burger King, operating in Qatar, where you have different lines for the laborers, foreign workers, and for Arabs and whites traveling from the West. They literally have to stand on separate lines to buy food there. And similar treatment is in every field across the country. They're kept completely separate from the population and are treated miserably. This is unfortunately part of the racist culture that is being deliberately promulgated by the authorities in Qatar.
Right, and Irina, the kalafa system that binds workers to their employers continues to exist in Qatar. Can you shed some light into what this system is all about and how it goes against international labor laws?
Qatar was actually compelled to change some of their laws, including the kafaya system that guards the rights of labor workers and guards the relationship between employers and foreign laborers. Essentially, the key to these reforms was to ensure that they receive their salaries on time, that they are able to take vacations and visit their families with no problem, and get in and out of the country without being harassed, and that they are not abused. And this happened after a wave of international pressure and findings, but international NGOs in 2017, Qatar reformed its laws to clarify that these minimal basic human rights have to be guaranteed by laws. However, more recent findings found that the implementation of the system was partial at best, and these abuses continue. And once the World Cup Championship was announced that it was taking place in Qatar, and all these additional people were employed to build the stadium, it actually has gotten a lot worse because 6,500 people already died that are known while building the stadium, which is unheard of anywhere around the world. It's shocking, and many have been injured. We don't even know how many, and in some cases the bodies of these people are never even found. They're buried quietly because they don't want to have to deal with their families asking for answers, or to provide any compensation to the families who lose an essential worker who provides for the family. Many of these people haven't seen their families in months. They send their remittance payments back home, but they don't even visit. So unfortunately, there's no real enforcement, no real accountability. Human rights NGOs write shocking reports. The media, especially in countries where soccer, where football is very mainstream, they write articles about that as well. But there hasn't been a mass movement so far to boycott the championship or to apply any other pressure to further these reforms at all. There's absolutely commercial interest seems to triumph in this case.
Irina, also talk about as to what are the other labor practices in Qatar that have resulted in a large number of foreign workers to be in debt and trapped in that country.
Well, first of all, Qatar is completely dependent on these people. They've facilitated their entrance. They promised them generous money, especially compared to their own salaries back home. They made it very enticing offers. But once they traveled to Qatar, the reality was different. They couldn't get back easily. They need an exit visa that has to be approved by the employer in order to travel back, and the employer can deny it for any reason. Again, according to the law, this should not be the case. There should be a reasonable level of ease in traveling back home. But in reality, once you are inside the country, the law is not on your side. Qatar is essentially a surveillance state, a police state, where most of the working Qatar population, the native citizens, are part of that policing environment, and they are certainly part of the enforcement of this entire system. It's not in their interest, as they see it, to provide any ease to these workers, because they want them to be downtrodden. They don't want them taking advantages of a more free working environment. And so a lot of the times they do deny these visas. They prevent people from traveling home and revealing the conditions inside the country, because that might discourage some of the people from coming to begin with, and it might encourage people to push for reforms or to make demands, which is not interest of this ruling class. They've created a completely separated class system, and they're enforcing it by essentially blackmailing these people into silence and into compliance if they speak up, if they make minimal demands, if they do something wrong, or if they just don't please their employer. They can be either thrown in jail, denied their salary, or simply be trapped inside the country with no way back out for years at a time.
And Irina, as per reports online, over 6,000 workers from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, amongst other countries, have died in Qatar ever since it was awarded the World Cup a decade ago. Why has there been no global outrage or outcry or an inquiry into these reports?
There actually has been a great deal of reporting on this issue. The problem with it is that these statistics fall on deaf ears, because Qatar has successfully whitewashed its image, and it has presented itself as a very modern country, enticing to the to investors and to tourists. The World Cup Championship is a huge fundraising opportunity for them, and they've gone out of their way to create very effective advertising and PR and to minimize the effect of these reports, essentially bribing some of the athletic organizations that would otherwise push for boycotts, and pushing well-known sports personalities to become ambassadors for their so-called brand. They are paid millions of dollars to pretend that nothing is happening, and most people have no idea what's going on. They don't necessarily read human rights reports or even sports coverage. They just watch games. They have no idea what's happening. So basically, people who are in a position of influence, who should be raising these questions and pushing for boycotts, have been bought off. Another thing that they do to distract international attention from their own problems is persistently attack other countries on the basis of alleged human rights violations and create a very effective level of outrage and media campaigns against these countries and other situations elsewhere, which causes the attention to break up, to be diverted from their own issues. But essentially, it's a combination of money that's paid very effectively and very effective branding, very effective media coverage. Also, don't forget that reporters who come to visit Qatar, they are not allowed to see the full picture. It's a police state. They see a Potemkin village that they are presented, and they don't necessarily ask any questions because these journalists are treated very well.
And Irina, why do you think that a body like FIFA awarded the World Cup rights to Qatar despite the latter's history of workers' abuse, and why are they turning a blind eye to these latest reports?
Unfortunately, FIFA is well known as an extremely corrupt body. It had previously awarded championships to countries that clearly were not they shouldn't have gotten the World Cup championship slots. There's been known cases of bribery in which FIFA officials were consequently forced to resign. Some were even arrested and investigated for corrupt practices and for bribery. And there's also a case of countries assisting each other in obtaining these slots to host the next World Cup championship, which is exactly what happened with Qatar. It had effectively facilitated the previous bid by another country, and that country in turn supported its own bid. There's been discussions over financial bribery, basically, to the decision makers in the process. Those rumors only persisted after the championship was already awarded, and it has continued to this day. We have seen examples of that in FIFA's attitude towards some of the clubs that traditionally participate in soccer, and in general their attitude towards this issue, their silence only reflects the fact that they have a financial and career or related incentive not to make Qatar angry by raising questions about this hosting opportunity that is costing lives, that is completely inappropriate, and that is being abused by Qatar and used to justify and further whitewash its outright criminality against these vulnerable migrant workers who live there with no rights.
And Irina, last question. What do you think the global community can do at this point in time to create pressure on Qatar to allow an independent inquiry into allegations of human rights abuses and bring workers back to safety?
There should not be a financial or political incentive for Qatar to abuse the goodwill of the international community like that. This World Cup championship should be boycotted by all involved. People should not be traveling to watch it. Brands should not be investing in sponsorships. Even teams participating should not be participating there. They should push for an alternate location to play. Anything other than that only legitimizes these abusive practices and the outright murder of many of these workers and the extreme duress pressed on them. And it unfortunately sets up Qatar for complete impunity, not just for this instance, but for all future instances of abuses. Once something major like that is allowed to proceed without any recrimination or any accountability, in the future, Qatar can host other major events with similarly deadly results and continue to make money off the deaths of innocent people.
Irina, appreciate you speaking with us and giving us those vivid details of what actually is going on in Qatar.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.